you for taking the time to learn about something that's so important that I gather you want to develop for yourself. So I just want to recognize you all for taking the time to join us tonight. So tonight's call, as Chris and Tammy have introduced, is called the skill of active listening. And I'm going to give you a definition. Now, one of the things that Chris asked me is, do you have a PowerPoint? And I said, no, because this is not going to be visual. This is going to actually, right in the moment tonight, start to develop your listening skills. So there's no PowerPoint, but here we go. We're going to start having you listen at a higher level. So here's the definition for active listening. Active listening is the ability to focus completely on a speaker, understand their message, comprehend the information, and respond thoughtfully. Okay, now, how do we apply active listening? So this one, the second one, I'm going to repeat it twice. Active listening refers to a pattern of listening that keeps you engaged with your conversation partner in a positive way. It is the process of listening attentively while someone else speaks, paraphrasing and reflecting back to them what is said, and withholding judge and advice. Okay, so I'm going to say that one again. How do we apply active listening? Active listening refers to a pattern of listening that keeps you engaged with your conversation partner in a positive way. It is the process of listening attentively while someone else speaks, paraphrasing and reflecting back what is said, and withholding judgment and advice. Okay, so now how many of us could develop a little bit of that, whether it's in our relationships at home, whether it's with our business, whether it's, some of us are interacting still in the work world. So as Chris and Tammy said, I have taken courses, and it was a killer. I've taken courses that were like weekend courses. They're called intensive courses that were like a Friday night, a Saturday, and a Sunday. And guess what they said? The first minute that we were in there is, everyone put your pen and papers away. You're not allowed to take any notes. And I'm a note taker. I learn visually. So for me, it was like, what? I can't, it was so hard. So anyway, this is, like I said, it's a skill that it needs to be developed. Some of us are born with it. Some of us have that skill because we had that ability or we had that experience. And then again, I'll get more into that in our childhood. But most of us, it's a skill that we need to learn. There's a gentleman, if anybody wants to do a little bit more research online, his name is Alex Lyon, Lyon. He has a PhD and he's a communication coach. He states, and listen how important this is for us in our business, good listening is the best way to connect with other people. How true is that? In addition, there's a company called Virtual Speech, and this company, what they do is that they offer business communication courses, and they define active listening like this. It requires the listener to fully concentrate, understand, and respond, and then remember what's being said. It makes you have, or it creates in you, as you're developing this, a conscious effort versus passively hearing the message of the speaker. You're consciously listening to what they're saying. And this company also did some research, and they stated that studies show that we remember less than 50% of what we hear in a conversation. So how important is it? It's incredibly important. So here we go. All right, so active listening means to be listening completely versus passive listening. For example, you could be watching TV, somebody comes in and they have something to tell you and you're kind of like half listening and half not. That's passive listening. Or how many times do we see our kids on their cell phones or whatever, and they're not really engaged. So that's called passive listening. So how do we develop active listening? Number one, commit. Commit to making listening a priority. In that moment, you're going to go into that conversation and you're going to say, before you go there, I'm going to really, really, really listen to what they have to say. Like I said, whether it's your family, whether it's Max. So one is to commit. Number two is practice. These are skills that we can develop. I mean, there are two kinds, as you know, of communication. There is the verbal and the nonverbal communication. The nonverbal communication is being engaged, making, eye contact, looking at them, listening to what they're saying, blocking out everything else that we might be thinking about, putting your devices away, not having them there, and smiling. That makes them feel that they're welcome. And that makes them feel that what they're saying is important to you. Then there's the verbal communication. The verbal communication is that as you're having a conversation with someone and you're listening to them, ask them thoughtful questions and then let that person speak. Listen to what they have to say and say little things like, I hear you. Or we can even make little utterances like, yeah, I get that. So that's part of the verbal communication that we have with people. The next step is responding. And when we're responding, you know how sometimes it's not so much a conversation, but it's almost like borderline like an argument, and someone's saying something and you don't have a clue what they're saying because all you're thinking about is what you're going to say back to them because you want to win the argument, quote unquote. Well, when you're responding in active listening, what you're doing is you're keeping the focus on them and you're letting them talk. And when you do respond, you're responding about them. It's not about you. So that's that part where you're listening and then you're responding back to say what you're just engaged in whatever it is that they're saying. So one of the questions one of the skills is that when you ask back a question to them, that it needs to be concise. For example, if and you're talking to someone specifically about Max and they're telling you some of the concerns that they have, regarding their job security, it's real easy for us to want to be the problem solver and all of a sudden go on with this little spiel about you've got all the answers for them. When you're participating in and engaged in active listening, you're going to ask a concise question such as, how long have you been worried about this? This job security, is this something that's just now since the pandemic, or has this been long term? And then let them talk, because you will really get in their world if you start asking them questions about what they're sharing, because we get so many clues on what's really going on in people's lives, but sometimes we have our own agenda and we're trying to give them a solution rather than to have them find their own solution. And to be a good active listener, the first half of the conversation that you have with someone is dedicated to active listening. So the first half of the conversation is just really, really, really listen. So when we do that, when we partake in active listening, the conversation goes from being, for them, a superficial problem to getting and finding out what is that deeper emotional aspect of their problem. And for those of you that have been around long enough to hear some of Tammy's training, she is the queen of active listening when it comes to that, because Tammy connects with people. She's just developed that skill of connecting with people and then giving them empathy. And she just she creates a space for people to really open up. And I remember once doing a 3-way call with Tammy, and Tammy had reconnected with one of her longtime friends, somebody that she had known from decades ago, and they reconnected on social media. And I remember this 3-way call was because this lady had had a car accident. She's had some very serious physical issues. She wasn't recovering. And then from there, she wasn't able to work. And then from there, her financial situation was becoming a real struggle for her. So her health was an issue. And then, like I said, her finances were an issue. And she felt stuck. And she actually felt like she was sinking both financially and physically in her life. And it was because of Tammy's ability to actually create a space for her to start talking about it, that when I came in on the 3-way call, she started opening up and sharing. And one of the things that Tammy, again, has just mastered that skill is finding out their why. And Tammy, I'm going to just open the floor to you to share with the audience. When you ask people their why, share with them what you taught many of us about getting it down to the core, where you can move them to tears. So if you would just want to share a little bit about that, I would think that would be so beneficial.
Sure. Well, I've known her for so many years, so it was easy for me to reconnect with her. And I knew some of her struggles in the past. And, one of the things that when I teach people, I said, get notes of connections when you connect with people. So when you reconnect with people, it's easy to kind of go back in a conversation. But yeah, I opened her up to where she's at today and what she wants to achieve moving forward, and where she was stuck. And she shared everything with me. And of course, Jasmine was the perfect person I could see that would align. So I used Jasmine for the three-way call to make that connection. And it was fantastic. She's a very open person anyways, and not everybody's like that, Jas.
Yeah,
She
that's true.
happens, yeah, she just happens to be very open in communication. So it was an easier way. And of course I knew her. So you're not always going to get that openness, but keep digging and ask questions, because people's favorite subject is themselves. So the more you communicate and reach the core of their challenges or their desires, whatever it is, the closer you are to being able to share a link, to get them to easily say, yes, I want to have a look at it. And Jazz, as you remember, she just happened to be an associate years ago. And then, lots got in the way. And now she was very excited to get back. So,
Yes. Thank you. And thank you for sharing again why it's so important to get that why. For all of us, we need to know the why of anybody that you have in your business or that you've connected in your team. You need to know their why. And the only way you're going to find out is through active listening. And one of the things, as you talked about, some people, you're right, Tammy, it's really easy for them to open up and other people don't. And for some of us, as I said at the beginning, active listening is easier for some people, and for other people, it's not. And part of what is for each individual kind of like their own learning that they need around it is that our pattern of listening and our reaction to what people say and our communication style, it's often based on our upbringing. It comes back from our childhood experiences. So what we're used to as we grew up, we're either going to copy it 100%, we're going to either copy it, or we don't like that style of communication that was, say, in our home or with an influential adult in our life, that we're actually going to do 100% the opposite. So I'm going to give you some examples of things that maybe we do that we're not even aware that we do, because they are habitual and it's like it's like our norm. So we don't even realize this. So here's some examples. Perhaps you had a parent or you had an adult of influence. It could have been a teacher or a coach or, an aunt or an uncle or someone that somehow left a mark on you that was part of your development, part of what you decided to take on, whether it was a conscious or an unconscious decision. So here's some examples. You might have had a parent or an adult of influence that had the role and came across kind of like a teacher or a professor. And there's two types of teachers. One of them will come across and say, I am here to teach and I have the answers. And sometimes we listen coming from there. Whereas other teachers or professors can say, you know what, you can figure out the answer. And so your listening might be coming from that you actually are letting them decide and learn and choose what's best for them. And so sometimes, they can figure out the answer. They might need a little bit of guidance, but ultimately it's up to them to choose, rather than us providing for them the answer. I know that I get stuck in teacher mode. I'll lapse back to that because that's how I grew up. That kind of like my father said, don't go out and learn from your own experience, learn from my experience and just do what I say. So that's kind of like, I have to be careful because I think that I have the answer, but it's really important that they figure it out themselves. Someone could have had a parent of authority, and it might have been someone like, again, these are just examples, this is generalization. Not all people are like this, but I'm going to say, for example, like for a police officer or a lawyer or a judge, not saying that all police officers, lawyers, and judges are like that, but that this person of authority in your life basically came across with a message, you are wrong. Or when all they want to do is like, give me the facts, and then they pass whatever judgment. And then we've learned to listen from that. And sometimes, like I said, we copy that. Sometimes we say, no, I don't like that style. And then you just let it go and you just do it, like I said, 100% the opposite. Somebody could have had a parent or an influence that was like an army sergeant type. And they basically said, just do what I say and don't ask questions. And that's how some people operate. If someone's smiling, I see some people smiling. Yep, somebody had that experience. Somebody could have had a role model in their life that was indifferent, or that they weren't there for them and that they weren't involved. And for some people that feels like abandonment. And Other people, though, said that they took that situation. They said, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. They knew that if it was someone was going to figure it out, they were going to figure it out on their own. So they're really great at doing problem solving skills because that's what they've done from when they were young. Other listeners, and some people have had that experience, are very supportive and encouraging. And they'll ask questions like, I had a girlfriend that I remember that oh my gosh, she was a single mom, and she would ask questions like this to her children. What's going on for you right now? How does that make you feel? And then she would say, you can do it. And so some of us have had that experience, and that's why I said active listening comes naturally for you. Some people have had an influence that role model or that guide for them has been entrepreneurial/spiritual. And I put entrepreneurial and spiritual together because that mindset teaches you and expresses to you to dream big. Right from when some people were young, they were already encouraged, dream big, or they were told, you can have it all. You can have it all. Figure out a way. You can have it all. Or you can just have faith and apply yourself. Just have faith, apply yourself, and anything that you want in life you can achieve. So whichever style you grew up with, and perhaps follow today, we may follow it unknowingly. Like I said, sometimes we don't even realize. Remember that you can learn new skills and evolve and grow. Specifically, in any area, but specifically as we're talking tonight in active listening. And the key is that you're going to improve with practice. It's going to happen. You're going to improve with practice. So make it a goal. Have active listening skills become second nature for us. Just do it for me and for you, for all of us. Just go out there and practice. And you're going to get some little challenges tonight, I guess. So I guess my first thing is put a thumbs up or something in the chat box. Are you willing to take on the active listening skill? Are you willing to take on learning and growing how to become a better active listener? So, okay, good. I see thumbs up. Yay. Awesome. I'm going to give you an example of active listening or lack of active listening, not to do with Max, because I think that everybody's going to be able to relate to this. And then we're going to implement Max into this example. So I'm going to give you a life situation that you might be able to relate to. So I came up to a friend of mine and I said to her, I have a dream. My birthday's coming up and it's a special birthday and I want to go to Vegas and it's going to be great. And I want you to come with us. And I'm going to ask my sister to come with us. And I'm going to get Tammy and Sue and Mimi. We're all going to go together. And we're going to go down to Vegas and we're going to go there for 4 days. And we're going to go from September 18th to 22nd. And I was thinking to stay either at Caesars or at the Venetian, but I'm not sure which. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send you some information on the flights and the cost of everything. And then about the hotels. And you let me know which hotel sounds better. I am so excited. I can't wait. Okay, you know what, girlfriend? You got to go home, pack your bags, and we're going to have the time of our lives. I know it's going to be the best time ever, and it's going to be just us girls. And I know you've never been to Vegas, so you're going to love, love, love it. Okay, so I'm going to send you these links. So send you the links and just go check out the hotels, check out the flights, and then I'll check with you in a couple of days. Midweek, I'm going to let you know. I want to hear from you what you picked and where you want to go. Okay, so now here's my follow-up. So a couple of days later, I'm checking in, but I don't call it follow-up. I'm going to check in with her. And so I go, so girlfriend, have you got your bags packed? Are you bringing those amazing, cool dancing shoes that you have? And which hotel did you choose? Which one did you like better? Oh yeah, and here's the flight info. Oh yeah, I forgot. Do you want to book it or do you want to just give me your credit card and I'll book it? And so when you think about that, somebody may be thrilled and they always wanted to go to Vegas and the timing is perfect and September 18th to 22nd works for them. And for somebody else, what's it like that I didn't even check in with them? I didn't ask. Yuck, right? It's yuck for some people. I mean, like I said, unless this has been your dream trip and I clued in with you. So now tell me, what is something that I could have done? How could I have been a better listener? What questions could I have asked to check in with that person and find out if they were even interested in going to Vegas, going on my birthday, having a flight? Anyway, anybody have anything that they want to add, whether you want to write it in the chat, whether you want to say it verbally? What could I have done to be a better listener before I went on and go blah, 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 all about my stuff? Okay, I'm going to ask you a different question. When I did all my little spiel about my birthday to Vegas, who was it about? Was it about me or was it about them? Yeah, me. Okay, yeah, you can do it with your fingers. Yeah, it was about me. Okay, so now let's take that example and let's slide over to the Max business, because I don't think that we sometimes realize that we do this. I know that I realize that I didn't do this sometimes when I talk to people. So here it is. I have a dream. I want to be financially independent. And it's going to be great. I'm going to go diamond and we're going to go diamond. And I want you to come with me and Tammy and Mimi and Sue. And we're all going to go diamond. We're going to be business partners. We're going to travel all over the world. And we're going to have this amazing business. And we're going to have all our dreams come true. And we're going to work for it for 5 years. We're all going to work together for 5 years. And then I was thinking that the best way to get started for you was that either you could get a professional pack or a premier pack. I mean, I'm thinking I'm giving them a choice. So you get to pick whichever you want, if you want the professional pack or the premier pack. And I'm going to send you all the options. I'm going to send you the cost on that. And then you're going to let me know which one's better for you. And the first thing you have to do, you got to start writing your list. Start writing a list of everybody that you know. And as soon as we get this business going, I know you're going to love, love, love it. You're going to love all the freedom that you have. You're going to love that you don't have to go back to work anymore. You're going to love the fact that we're traveling all over the world. And guess what? You're going to be rich. You're going to be rich like you never imagined. So anyway, that's a comparison. And it may not be your style. It may not be your enthusiasm, but it could be subtly that we're giving that same message with that about this is something that you want without checking in with them. And when I was talking about Vegas, one of the things I could have said was, do you like to travel? Have you ever thought about going to Vegas? Do you want to, is there anywhere that's on your dream list, on your bucket list that you would love to travel? And when's the last time that you've traveled? Or what matters to you? What's important to you? What concerns do you have going on right now? That's how you actually ask questions and check in with them and find out what's going on with them. So instead of, checking if they've got their bags packed and, bringing all that stuff up, we're actually going to find out what, like I said, what matters to them. So I obviously didn't engage in active listening in that example. So we got a little bit about what's missing. And here's one with Max. Have you ever thought about what life would be like without financial stress and uncertainty? Because remember, I was listening to them and somehow that came up in the conversation. And I didn't include, when I was doing my Yahoo about my stuff, I didn't include them. I didn't include their thoughts, feelings, or concerns. I didn't even take that into account. So what do I have to do first? I have to get super clear. I'm talking like 110% clear that it's not about me. It's about them. It's about them when I have the conversation. So remember when we took the Eric Worre courses, we were taught to share your story. And when we share our story, it's like, this is, what's going on in my life or my career or my situation. And you talk about what's good about it. This is what I do in my career and this is what I like about it. And then we talk about what we don't like. What don't I like about my career? What's not working for me? What's my concern? What's my worry about it? And then remember the third one, something happened. A friend told me about something, or they shared a new business project that they were involved with, or that they started taking something, and that it has a really neat science that's really important for everyone. And it's critical for everyone to know about this and to be aware of this and to be taking these products. So if I just talked a little bit about my story, what's going on in my life, what I don't like about it, what happened that a shift changed, and all of a sudden my future looks bright. My future's golden. My life is like this for me now. If I share my story, then all of a sudden I have to stop. At that point, I have to stop rather than spieling on and going on and on about everything that I have as my agenda. I have to stop. I have to breathe. And then I have to ask and listen to them. And after I listen to them, while I'm listening, I'm attentive to listening, I'm going to respond to them by recreating what they said. And when we're recreating what they said, I want to get their story. So as I'm getting their story and I'm actively listening to them, I'm absorbing what they say. I'm going to repeat it out loud back to them. I'm going to ask questions, and then I'm going to ask for clarity on what they said. And I'm not going to interrupt. I'm not going to interrupt. So remember, eye contact and smile. As they're talking, smile and nod and let them know that you're engaged in the conversation. So when you're actively listening, the whole goal is to be present and to show interest when your friend is talking. Show interest in what they have to say. And as they're talking and they're sharing with whatever it is that's going on, to be empathetic towards what they say, you could interject and just say like, really? Or like, wow. Oh no. Wow, I'm sorry to hear that. Or that's really interesting. Whatever it is, add something to what they're saying to let them know that what they're saying is important to you. And when we're responding, it's so important to be kind and to be patient. And again, as I say, I mean, we're all learning this and we're all developing this. And I will always go back, Tammy's the queen of that, to be kind and to be patient. Find out more about them. And when you're responding back to them, you're going to ask things like, sounds like da 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 is going on for you, or tell me more about that, or go ahead, just the floor is yours. Or you could ask them, if it's someone that you know well, like Tammy said, her friend was open, you can ask them, how does that make you feel? Now, for some people, and I'm not just saying guys in general, but for some people, how does that make you feel is really uncomfortable. It might be uncomfortable for some people to say it. It might be uncomfortable for some people to hear it and then answer. So instead of like, how does that make you feel? Alternative questions that you could say is like, what happened? Or what did you do? Or what was it like? Or how was it? How was it when you lost your job? How was it when the pandemic came and you were like hanging on a thread? How was it when you found out that your child has a life-threatening condition, or someone in your family is in really poor health? Like, what is that like? So you can ask questions differently. Like, what happened? What did you do? Instead of asking that, how does that make you feel? I can do that. Some people aren't comfortable with doing that. Now here's something else with Chris. Chris's skill in active listening is that he cuts through the chase. So I'm going to give you an example that happened. So I had a prospect that I met, and this prospect I met on social media, and I was talking about what I had, with Max, both the health benefit and the business, and he sounded really keen and sounded interested. He was a coach. So he was a coach, a business coach, that he did one-on-one counseling sessions with people. And I'm thinking, oh, this is great, because he's the kind of person that's open, and he's going to be a person that, remember that learn and unlearn, he's going to be really good at learning new skills. And so I kind of had an idea that because he was a business coach, he was going to be a great prospect. So I sent him some information and the typical videos that we might send out. And then I had the 3-way call scheduled with Chris. And after Chris was in on the 3-way call with us, and Chris had asked questions, listen to him, what did you listen to? And it was kind of like, well, I told Jasmine that I listened to it, but I kind of just opened it and I didn't really get all of it. And then after 3-4 minutes of Chris asking questions and really being attentive with his listening, Chris said, are you generally interested in learning about Max as a business venture, or as a health benefit? Or is your main desire to coach Jasmine? Meaning, do you want to be her business coach and have Jasmine enroll in some of your one-on-one mentoring sessions? So Chris got that right away. And he answered, this gentleman that was on the phone answered, yes, that's what his intent was, that he wanted to enroll me in his one-on-one coaching. Now, Chris turned to the conversation to me and says, Jasmine, do you want to address that, or anything you want to say about that? And it was like, whoa, like, first of all, I was like blown away. It's like, how did you get that, Chris? Like, how did you get that in just a couple minutes? And So basically I said, no, like I don't need any one-on-one coaching. We've got an amazing support system. We've got incredible training. We've got something that's fine-tuned and specific for our business, and it's working and it's successful and people are soaring to the top. But what Chris did was, like I said, he cut through the chase. And because of his attentive listening skills, he saved me hours and days and weeks of wasted time and potentially money. I wouldn't have signed up. But if it was somebody new in Max, they might have signed up for this one-on-one coaching. So now the call ended, the three-way call ended. The guy's totally not interested in Max. Now Chris ends up that he calls me back right away and he's checking in with me. So now it's a private one-on-one conversation with Chris and I, and he's checking in with me to explain what he did and making sure that I was okay, that he didn't brush this guy off. And I'm like, I lost a potential associate. And he wanted to explain why he did what he did. So Chris, can you elaborate a little bit more on how you cut through the chase? Like, what is it that you listen to that people say? What questions do you ask when you do these three-way calls to know if the person is genuinely interested in pursuing Max a little bit further?
Jasmine, I really appreciate your training this evening. And folks, listen, I really recommend you listen to this call again and again and again. Because
oh, hang on, I don't think people can hear you.
Oh, hold on. Am I not coming through?
I can hear you, but Marie Paul did this thing. Oh, it's not okay. Can you turn up your volume? Yeah. Is that what you're saying, Marie Paul? It needs to be louder
by putting a thumbs up or.
Okay, turn up your volume a little bit more.
Is it me?
Okay, then just speak really loudly. We can hear you, but it's like maybe at 65%.
Hold on. I want to testing.
Okay, perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
That's better. That's
good. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so in line to this, just to go back to reframe what I was saying earlier, Jasmine covered, I was taking some notes here: empathy, listening, kindness, patience, repeat exactly what they said in a form of a question to create that relationship. I mean, and so much more. And there's a lot of great content here. And some of you are probably saying, well, why is it not working for me? Why is it not happening? Why? There's a lot of really good information here that can help you connect with that prospect. Now, in line to your question, Jasmine, for me, what's really important, and many of you knows me, is time and clarity. Time and clarity. That is the most expensive commodity in my life, time. And if I'm going to spend time, I want to make sure that we are talking with a genuine, someone who has genuine interests. And the fact is, I will really, and that's correct, Jasmine, I will spend the time to understand where they come from and what matters to them. Mm-hmm. Because you never know how someone can even turn around and do 180 degrees. We've done that often. Yeah. And the fact is, for me, and keep that in mind as I'm sharing, is clarity. To be clear on his goal and our goal and what we're trying to achieve. And in the same time is the time we spend in doing that. But in the same time, I know that some associates may work really, really hard to get this contact. So the last thing I want to do, even though I know the person may not be interested, is to my prospect feel that I brushed off that associate or that prospect because they didn't qualify. So there's a lot of area there that I'm trying to be very sensitive and careful, because I don't want the associate to feel uncomfortable to call me again for another prospect, right? Because that's the foundation of our business. So in line to the answer to your question, Jasmine, is what I do is I generally try to get a feel for what their goals are. That's why many of you that maybe have done calls with me, you'll hear me say, what did you like best about what you saw? And often I'll say, what is your goal with this business? What is it that you would like to achieve? But again, it depends on the circumstance. Right away, when Jasmine introduced me, I think it was a young guy, right, Jasmine?
Yep. Yes, it was.
Yeah. And I felt, I love his energy. He was a wonderful, very polite gentleman. But right away, I felt a sales pitch. And that's okay. I mean, that's what we do. And I wanted to be respectful to that. So I gave him the chance to speak because I didn't want him to feel offended of any way, shape, or form. But then I just, like Jasmine said, I cut to the chase. In a very diplomatic and polite manner is, what is your goal with this call? Did you want to get Jasmine as a student, or are you genuinely interested in this opportunity? Because I really do respect your time, and at that point, if I could be of some more help, then, and that's how the whole thing went by. I'm not sure, Jasmine, if I'm answering some of the areas that you want me to answer, if you'd like me to clarify in certain areas.
No, that's great, because it lets people know that, like you said, time and clarity is important. When you get where they're coming from and you get what's important to them, it's really to see how aligned they are with what we have to offer and how aligned we are with them, because it's a two-way street. We have to know that we want to work and support and coach someone like that. So yeah, there's just Scott's doing a thumbs up. So, thank you, Chris. It's just, I wanted people to hear from you what you're actively doing while you're actively listening, and what your intention is. And it's just like, I just love it, because you're very diplomatic. You're incredibly diplomatic. So, yeah, and you're so supportive. So thank you for that. Just going to give you some examples. We're going to move on to the 8 examples of active listening. And Chris, you mentioned some of those. One is paraphrasing. I hear what you're saying. So you just repeat, or I hear you saying da 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 da, and you repeat it back to them. A brief verbal affirmation. Appreciate your time. I appreciate your time. Chris did that. Here, look at, he was doing all that before I even got to that part of the presentation. So give them a brief verbal affirmation. Asking open-ended questions, like what's going on or what's happening with you. And then asking specific questions, such as like, tell me more. What's your biggest concern? What's going on now, or what do you see going on for you in the future? Whether it's a concern or whether it's an excitement that they have to share. You're mentioning similar situations. You might say, I can relate. I was in a similar situation. I get where you're coming from, all that kind of stuff. Another thing is summarize questions. Summarize any unclear points. There you go again, Chris. You summarize in your presentation clarity. It's like, that's really important to be clear. Notice when people are speaking, and also when you're in conversation with someone, notice when they're not speaking. Somebody may not be speaking because they absolutely have zero interest. They may be really, really tired. There may be something going on in their life, or they may be really bored. They're just not interested at all in what we have to say. And so really it's like checking in with them. And if somebody isn't sharing or speaking, just ask them, just be straight up. It's again about not wasting time. Is this something that you want to learn more about, or is this something that interests you, or is this maybe just not the right time, that maybe they've just got a lot going on in their life. So just check in with people and summarize the conversation. So if I got it right, what you're going through, or what you're feeling, or what you're not sure about, whatever, just repeat it back to them, and just get that summary and get clarification around that. I'm going to give you another example. As Tammy said earlier, sometimes some people are really open, and sometimes we could be in a conversation and we're participating in active listening, but that person, it just doesn't go the way that we think it's going to go. And there was an example, Sheni, who's in my team, she's a bronze associate. She owns her own hair salon and aesthetic spa. And just a few weeks ago, I was at her salon. I was getting my hair colored. So she puts a color in, and then she's now working on another lady who's getting a manicure. And we're just a few feet apart. And we start chatting back and forth, all of us. And this lady has recently retired. She was in healthcare, but something to do in a government position. And so she was just started talking about, she's really excited that she's retired and she doesn't have to go to work. And it was just like dry. She was just really worn out, and she was aching. She was hurting, whatever she did. I don't know if she was like, it's kind of like a PSW that she had to lift people, but she was aching and she had a lot of aches and pains. So kind of like, what happens in the nonverbal communication, Sheni and I look at each other and we're going, all right, let's see where she's at. So the conversation, commenced, and Sheni and I started talking about how we're business partners and how we have a health, it's in the health arena, and we have, a health business. And then, as we're sharing with her, I didn't know if she was just a quiet person, or if she was like a little bit interested in the product, but if she wasn't at all interested in the business. I couldn't really tell yet. And so then I started asking her, or Sheni did, now that you're retired, do you have any unfulfilled dreams? Is there anything that's still on your bucket list that you want to accomplish that you haven't accomplished? Is there anything that you would do differently or change now? And here was where she said that we really got where she was coming from. She said, yes. She said, I would want to have less material things. I would want to have less stuff. I would want to have a life that was quieter and wasn't so busy, busy, busy. So we really started to see that she would even say things like, I used to get caught up in doing more and I want to do less. So we really get that she might have been burnt out. She was obviously, aching and having some aches and pains from her work, but she sounded like she was burnt out and she wasn't really into having more in life. So we needed to respect that. And part of our active listening was that we just said, okay, that's cool. And all she wanted to do was purge and get rid of stuff and things like that in her house. So when you hear that, sometimes we get deflated. Sometimes we say, okay, I respect where she's at and I understand that. And then the other thing is like, where could we go with this? So I'm going to now open the floor, whether somebody, says, whether you say it verbally or you want to type it in the chat. Is there anybody that wants to share? Somebody says, you know what, you get the sense that they're not interested in the business. What can we do with that conversation? Where can we go with them that it's actually not a closed door, but it still leads to something? Anybody have any ideas? So you connect with them, you tell them, I hear you. And then you might say something, like, it sounds like you've worked a lot and you bought a lot. And it sounds like now's the time for you to minimize, right? So I'm recreating and say to her, is that what you mean? Get clarity. So, but based on active listening, where could you take the conversation next? What could you ask this woman? She's not interested in the business at this moment, at this time. Anything else that you would ask her? Anybody want to just put up your hand or, okay, Mimi, go ahead.
Hello. I would ask them because I had that conversation yesterday with my neighbor next door. And for some reason, I hadn't heard your great training, but I kind of went into a setup. So it sounds like maybe you were in a business before, and she gave me a long spiel about her past Avon business, how it started off really well, but it was really time consuming and she was overwhelmed. And this past year with COVID, she's also a health support worker. She was burnt out. So I realized with Heather, the timing wasn't right. She's burnt out because health support over COVID, and she's had a past experience which wasn't great. I'll keep, giving her little nuggets of how well I'm doing on the supplements myself. She is interested in supplements, but the business, maybe over time, but it's not the right time. So that's what my listening of her comments made me realize when I asked a bit more.
Awesome. Okay. So you really got what was going on for her. And so then, based again on what you've said about this lady, Heather, it might be opportune to ask her about the products. Is she open to trying products that's going to help her or give her more energy? Because it sounds like, you're really burnt out. Would you be open to trying something? Or, if you gave her a sample, and would she give her feedback? So that kind of stuff, getting in her world and getting, so one of them would be to perhaps at this point that she became a customer and tried the product. And another thing that sometimes we totally forget about is, who do they know that might be interested? Who do they know that's looking? Who do they know that just had a conversation with them? It's like, I am so sick and tired of what I'm doing, and I wish that there was something else I could do, even from home. Like all those kinds of things. So we always forget to ask for, not always, we often forget to ask for referrals. So thank you for that. And thank you for giving us another real life example, and awesome to see you recovering. I know that you just come out of the hospital. So thank you for being so interactive. Thanks. I acknowledge you for that. And thank you, Mimi. Linda, you have your hand up.
Hey, Jas. One of the questions that I ask, and it might be relevant in this, is why is that important to you? So this individual is purging or shifting from material aspects of her life to immaterial aspects, non-material, I should say, not immaterial. And so why is that important to her? And so just to get a bit of a line of thinking in that direction. So it's a great question I ask. Why is that important to you?
Absolutely. That's great. That's getting to the why. That's getting down to the core. Yeah, Chris is giving you a thumbs up. Yeah, bingo. And also, and thank you for both of you for participating. The another thing is just ask them, is it okay if I check in with you in 3 months or see where you're at? Maybe the product now, but maybe check in with them in a couple months when they don't feel so burnt out, or they've done their purging and now they're like, I can breathe, or whatever it is that's going on in their life. So thank you, ladies. I don't know if there's anybody else, but thank you for participating. Cool. Oh, Chris, yes?
Yeah, I figured I'd add. I just want to make sure everybody had an opportunity to step
For
in.
sure.
At the end of the day, and really everybody handled this really well. And what I do is I like to take it away, but in a very polite way. And same time, I like to empathize with them. Is this, I understand 100%, and I get where you're coming from. But I do know that we're in changing times, and there's a lot going on, and things may change. And so it's in line with what pretty much everybody has said. I like to keep the door open.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exactly what I would say. And I just wanted to reaffirm that is, are you open for me to follow up in a month or 2 or 3 from now? Are you okay with that? And that way I put it in my calendar, and my calendar will never fail me. Whenever that happens within a week, I get a notification. The day before, I get another notification, and it's just, these are settings you set, and then we follow up from there. And the reason I'm telling, I want to reaffirm that is, this is how we build a business. Often people have this illusion that you have to, if they don't say yes now, it's you lost them, it's not happening. That's not the way this works. The fact is, if you speak to people on a regular basis over time, if you keep booking these calls, well, this one call that you booked 3 months from now, if you do that all the time, in that month, you may have people that you've spoke to 3 months ago every week, plus new prospect. That's how the successful people build this business. They don't just build one time and there's no interest, that's it. There's no prospects for the next 3 months. They constantly keep the door open and keep adding. So just want to add this.
True, absolutely true. Thank you. And
often, Jasmine, often go-getters will get to that state.
Mm-hmm.
So, if there was some, like after she would do all this purging and stuff, I would ask her if she's close by or something, or maybe a Zoom, if she'd be open to have a coffee chat or go and sit down and go for a walk or something and get to know her. Because often when people are like that, it's because they've had a lot on their plate, but they're real go-getters. They could, align themselves with some type of a purpose that would mean something. So I would keep the relationship going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember that just a few weeks ago, Paul Gagnon, when he did that MVP presentation for the Max overview, and he did the business aspect of it, then he ended up having one of his new associates on, and he gave, I think his name was John, and he gave his testimonial. And the amazing thing was, and I spoke to Paul about it on the weekend, Paul Gagnon, when we were in London this weekend, and I said, you met John in Canadian Tire, and 3 months later is when you actually shared the business with him, and then he became an associate. So I just got some feedback from him, and it was really about not pouncing on him, making that connection, finding out about him, asking him where he was from. And that's actually, he did that in Canadian Tire. He found out in Canadian Tire that he was from Ghana. And then, the guy said, something about, oh yeah, Black Lives Matter. But he said, no, it's not just about Black Lives Matter. It's about you matter. And then just that whole thing, it just unraveled. There was just a connection, and they just kept in touch. And that new prospect just one day said to him, okay, what is it that you do? Because he didn't go blah, 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 blah at the very beginning and just pour all over him. And so in summary, with all of that and all these skills that we're developing, I just want to add that, to say that to master active listening, 1, show interest, 2, repeat key words that they say, repeat it and say it back to them. And 3, ask more questions, because if we don't do active listening, what ends up happening is that we pour ourselves all over them. I know that I did that before. I had to tell them everything about everything that I knew about Max, and everything about the products and the ingredients and the benefits and everything that I got out of it. And so when we pour ourselves all over them, it's like we've got melted honey and we just pour it on them. And we think we're being sweet because we're giving them melted honey and we're slathering it all over them. And they're going, this is gross. I don't want melted honey all over. I go, but yeah, but it's so sweet. And it's not sweet. It's not sweet for the recipient if we don't know what's going on in their life. So if we dominate a conversation, like I can be in a conversation, and if I dominate it and I have an agenda, my whole thing is I want to sponsor them. I want them to be an associate. Guess what? I might even be strong enough, convincing enough, present myself well enough that, yeah, guess what? I'm going to sponsor them as an associate. But guess what happens? That's it. It ends there. And they've done it. They've signed up because they wanted to be nice, because I was the stronger influence in the but what good is that? They became an associate and then nothing happened. It's because I'm trying to give them a solution for their problem. It's they have to discover their own solution. And that only happens through active listening. So the other thing is that you can become too passive. And as soon as somebody says, oh, no, I don't think so, like that lady could have said, no, I'm like right now not into stuff. And then I can go, okay, that's, too much resistance, or that's, too much of something that I just don't want to bother her or whatever. And then we become so passive that we actually never move them through where they are. And often it's a temporary moment. And we didn't actually give them the benefit of that amazing, amazing bigger picture that we all know what it is. We all know. And if you're new on this call and you don't, go find out what's the amazing thing about Max, because there's so many aspects to it. So, so here's my goal. I'm going to share my story with people as I meet people. We all know how to do the story. We've all learned that. And then I'm going to see if the other person is interested to learn more, but only after I know their story. So either I get their story first, or I give them my story, get their story. And then when I know their story and ask enough questions and really get in their world, then I'm going to ask them if they're interested in learning more. If I'm not attached to the outcome, and if I'm not pushing my solution for their situation on them, if they actually figure that out on their own, then what results will we get with active listening? They will become more curious. They have an aha moment. It's like, oh, you're right, or I get it. Oh my gosh. So they have an aha moment. They're more willing to learn. Their dream awakens. Their dream awakens for them. Their situation or their solution is created by them. They create their solution because I was actively listening. They become engaged in the business, and then they get in action. All that happens because of active listening. And just know that sometimes alternatively, you might get short answers from somebody. You might get that they seem bored, and just ask them, is this just not the right time? What's going on in your life right now? Just like I said, it's not always that everything that you do is just going to flow exactly how we want, but check in with them. And as Chris says, have your follow-up system that you follow, and practice with a variety of different people. Practice. The only way we're going to get this is that we actually go out there and do it. So here's challenge number one. Who's willing to have a conversation and practice an active listening skill example with somebody tonight? Put up your hand, do a little wave or whatever. You're going to have a conversation with somebody that's in the business. Doesn't have to be somebody new, because now I know it's late at night. Somebody in your family, somebody that's new that you're actually good. I see some thumbs up. You're going to just have a conversation with them, no agenda, and just listen. Play it back to them. Oh, I hear this is what you're saying, or I really get that, or whatever. And then summarize it for them. So then the other thing that I'm going to put out for everyone is the call to action. And here's our call to action. How many new prospect conversations are you going to engage in tomorrow to master your active listening skills? How many? So either you put up your finger, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you could put in the chat box, and you could say how many conversations are you going to have with someone tomorrow so that you can develop your active listening skills? Anybody got fingers that they're putting up, or is it in the chat thing? Wonder if I can go in the chat. Oh, I see some people are chatting. Okay, there's okay, hang on. So let me see. Okay, cool. I see some 3s. I see some. All right, awesome. So we're doing it. We're going to get out there and do it. Okay, so now I give you the challenge. Go out and develop your active listening skills. Connect with people. Really, really, really be empathetic about what's going on, but don't give up. Don't minimize what we have. Don't make it small. expand it for yourself, expand it for them, and give them the life of their dreams. All right. Love you guys. Go out and have an amazing week. That's it. Back to you, Chris.
Fabulous training, Jasmine. You are an incredible active listener. I mean, I've seen you in action for 11 years, so you've got everything it takes to really build strong relationships. So thank you for sharing.
Yes, thanks. My pleasure. My great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I did owe that, Tammy. This was a really, really good training. And folks, as I stated on the call earlier, do take the time to come back. It'll be posted either tonight or tomorrow on Active Team under the video segment. You just go to Go for Diamond webinars, and the most recent webinar is always at the top. The last 3 calls are very important. We started 3 weeks ago with Bobby Horn, where we kind of re-emphasized the credibility of our science and our product. And then we had our guest speaker, Scott Momey, that was last week, in reference to quality control. And the reason I'm telling you this is these first 2 calls are going to help you build your arguments and build your I'm just going to say your verbiage to be able to share with your prospects. Very, very, very important. And tonight, now we're shifting a little bit. Okay, now we have this information. Now we do need to make some money, right? We need to feed. So that now we're transitioning to, okay, what are the steps to take this wonderful information and apply it? And folks, don't limit yourself to your area code. There's work the entire North American market. Work the United States, work Canada. I know Lucy's working the French market in Africa and in Quebec. And, so don't be shy to venture out. Don't get limited to your area code, folks. Think bigger. And the last point I want to reemphasize is your organization and booking your call. This is very, very important. Whenever you speak to a prospect, if someone says no, please don't take that as it's a failure. It is not a failure. It is a step closer. So it's just the way you handle the lead. So when you finish the call, don't just kind of let it go and forget about them, but always keep the door open for a follow-up conversation. And if you get into a habit of doing that, I'm telling you, you will never, never, never run out of leads. That's the key here. So, Jasmine, that was a wonderful, wonderful training. Is there any last thought that you want to add as we end here?
Well, I see that people have put in the chat they've committed to whether they're going to talk to, 1, 2, 3. No, actually, there are no 1s. There are 2s, 3s, up to 5 or 10. Now what we need to do is, who's on this, or who your upline is. Tomorrow, at the end of the day or sometime in the day when you finish it, let your upline know, I did my 2, I did my 3. It's all about accountability. And like I said, it's just practice till becomes second nature. So, and it's a fun business because we make a difference and we learn and grow, and other people learn and grow. And it's just like, there's no turning back. There's no turning back. So let's just go out there and do it, and let your upline know that you've done it tomorrow. Just send them a text, a message, and say, I did my 3, and just let's go out there and do it. Let's go out there and change lives, guys. I can't imagine my life without Max. I cannot even imagine. So, I had these skills. I did them in dentistry. I knew so much about my patients. I didn't remember 50% of the conversation. I remembered like 99% of the conversation. I didn't remember their name. I don't know why that's on board, but I could tell you everything about them. So just take that and carry it over here. Just take it and do it and go out and have fun with it.
Beautiful. Well, folks, you heard it. That was a wonderful training. Thank you, Jasmine. So everybody, feel free to share your comments on the YouTube channel, on that actual training. There's comment section. And the reason why I'm really encouraging people to do that is your comments actually are really helpful for other viewers that might have some questions, and sometimes there might actually be some threads of conversation that are initiated from a comment. So this applies on Facebook Lives and applies also on the YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe, because the moment this video is uploaded, you don't have to chase it and find an active team. You just get an email notification by YouTube. It's just like Facebook, and then you know that there is a new video that's been uploaded for you to access. Okay, everybody, have yourself a wonderful evening. Look forward to the next call next week. We'll let you know what's going on and the topic. So everybody have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to everybody next week. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for your participation.
Don't forget the opportunity presentation on Thursdays, and there's going to be more presentations that are going to be hosted by the North Americans very, very soon. So stay tuned with the active team calendar. Good night, everybody.
Excellent. Good night.
Good night.
Everyone.
Bye.